Sometimes the smallest shift in how you see life changes everything. Because greatness doesn't begin with what you do, it begins with what you realize. My dear friends, life is not always about learning more. It's about learning what truly matters. We chase new skills, new goals, new titles, and yet, deep inside, we stay the same. But the truth is, transformation begins not in a classroom, not in a seminar, not in a book. It begins in a quiet moment of realization. So today, let me share with you 3 lessons, simple yet sacred, that can instantly make you a better human being. Not next month, not next year, but today. Sometimes we fight battles that don't need to be fought. We argue, defend, and justify ourselves until we are exhausted. Not because truth isn't clear, but because our ego isn't satisfied. You see, life becomes peaceful not when everything goes your way, but when you stop needing to win every argument. It's not about being right all the time. It's about being wise enough to know when being right is not worth the price of your peace. I once met a man who told me that every day he would end up in arguments with his wife. He said, "I don't even know why it happens. It starts with something small, maybe the way I place my shoes or the way she says something, and before I know it, we're shouting." I asked him, "What do you gain from winning those arguments?" He looked down and said, "Nothing, I just lose the person I love a little more each time." That's when it hit him, and perhaps that's when it should hit all of us. That there's a big difference between winning the argument and winning the relationship. Sometimes to keep your peace, you must let go of your need to prove your point. Silence is not weakness. It's wisdom that understands the limits of logic when love is at stake. You don't need to defend every opinion. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding. Let time and truth be your defenders. Because the moment you start arguing with everyone who disagrees with you, you end up fighting a battle that has no end. People don't always listen to understand, they listen to reply. Have you noticed that the louder people argue, the less they truly hear each other? That's the irony of pride. It makes so much noise that even truth gets drowned. But wisdom whispers. It teaches you to respond, not react, to pause before speaking, to ask yourself, will what I say bring peace or pain? There's an old saying that when you throw mud at others, you lose ground yourself. Every time we engage in meaningless conflict, we lose inner stability. Our mind becomes restless, our heart heavy. That's why learning to walk away is not a sign of defeat. It's the victory of peace over pride. In one of the ancient scriptures, it is said that a wise person remains calm amidst chaos. Why? Because they've learned the value of energy. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Not every opinion deserves a reply. Some people are committed not to understanding but to misunderstanding. So, let them have the last word. Because peace is far more valuable than the fleeting pleasure of being right. I remember once being in a heated discussion during my corporate days. Everyone wanted their idea to be the one chosen. The room was tense. Finally, an older colleague looked at me and said softly, "You don't always have to fight to make your point. Just let your work speak for itself." That day I learned something profound. Truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand. You see, silence has a power words can't match. It's not passive, it's deliberate. It says, "I value peace more than pride. I choose harmony over hostility." The world tells us to be loud to be heard, but God teaches us to be still to be wise. Sometimes you will walk away and people will think you're weak. Let them. You will know that strength is not proven in confrontation but in restraint. The one who can stay calm when insulted, patient when provoked, gentle when tested, that person is truly strong. So when conflict comes, ask yourself, what's really at stake here? Is it your ego or your peace? Is it your pride or your relationship? Most battles are not worth fighting because victory in argument often leads to defeat in connection. The more you grow, the less you argue. Because you understand that people don't need your correction as much as they need your compassion. You realize that truth, when spoken without love, becomes arrogance. But silence, when chosen with wisdom, becomes grace. So next time someone challenges you, breathe, smile gently, choose peace, change your circumstances. It changes your eyes. You begin to notice how much beauty is hidden in what you once took for granted. Your heartbeat, your breath, your ability to think, walk, and love. Every one of these is a gift, but we only realize it when life takes one away. Gratitude invites you to realize it now. Some people say, but Gaur Gopal Das, how can I be grateful when life is hard? My friends, gratitude doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means remembering blessings even in pain. You can acknowledge your struggles and still thank God for strength. You can cry and still whisper, thank you for teaching me. Gratitude is not denial, it's divine perspective. It says, even though it hurts, I still trust that there's purpose in this. Think of rain. Sometimes it ruins your plans, but without it, nothing grows. Life works the same way. Gratitude helps you see the blessing within the storm. It tells your heart, yes, I may not be where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. I've often told people, don't just count your blessings, use them. When you use your gifts to help others, you multiply your gratitude. The joy of giving deepens appreciation for what you have. When you feed someone who's hungry, you realize how precious your own meal is. When you comfort someone who's lonely, you realize how lucky you are to be loved. Gratitude becomes service when you share it. So tonight, before you sleep, take a moment, don't scroll, don't compare. Just close your eyes and whisper 3 thank yous. One for something you have, one for something you've learned, and one for someone you love. You'll feel peace settling into your heart like a soft blanket. Gratitude is not just an attitude, it's a way of seeing the world through faith. It's saying, God, I may not understand everything right now, but I trust you. I see your hand in the little things, and I am thankful. Because when you see through the eyes of gratitude, every moment becomes a miracle. You stop chasing happiness, and happiness starts following you. In today's world, everything feels like a race. From the moment we wake up, we're running to achieve, running to prove, running to be seen. We measure our worth by how fast we rise, how much we earn, and how well we compare to others. But somewhere in that endless race, we lose sight of what really matters. Life isn't supposed to be a competition. It's meant to be a contribution. There's a quiet kind of joy that comes when you stop asking, how can I be better than them? And start asking, how can I be better for them? That shift from competition to contribution changes everything. Let me share a story. Years ago, I met a young professional who was constantly frustrated. He said, no matter how hard I work, someone always gets ahead of me. Someone gets promoted faster, earns more, travels further. His voice carried exhaustion, not because he wasn't successful, but because he was always comparing. I told him, when you look sideways, you lose sight of your own path. The race becomes endless and peace disappears. He looked confused, so I asked, tell me, why do you run? He said, to win. And I asked again, but what happens when you win? He paused and said, then I'll be happy. I smiled gently. No, my friend, happiness doesn't come after victory. Happiness is what makes victory meaningful. If you're not happy while running, you won't be happy after finishing. You see, competition feeds the ego. Contribution feeds the soul. When you compete, you compare. When you contribute, you care. The world glorifies the first position, the gold medal, the title, the spotlight. But contribution teaches a quieter truth. That fulfillment doesn't come from being seen, it comes from serving. When you focus on adding value instead of chasing validation, you begin to experience a deeper kind of success, one that no one can take away. There's an old story of 2 woodcutters. Every morning they would begin chopping wood together. One would keep swinging his axe all day without taking a single break. The other would stop every hour, sit quietly and rest. By evening, the one who rested had chopped far more wood. The first woodcutter asked, how could you beat me when you took breaks? The other smiled and said, while you were chopping, I was sharpening my axe. That's what happens when we stop competing. We start improving. Instead of trying to outdo others, we work on ourselves. We pause, we reflect, we grow sharper. Life isn't about cutting faster, it's about cutting wiser. There's another layer to this truth. When we compete, our joy depends on someone else's failure. But when we contribute, our joy expands with someone else's success. Imagine a world where we celebrated others' growth as much as our own. How much lighter our hearts would be. The sun doesn't compete with the moon, yet both shine beautifully in their own time. The flower doesn't compete with the tree, it just blooms. So must we, when you begin to serve with love, even in the smallest ways, your soul starts feeling alive again. It could be listening to a friend who's hurting, encouraging a coworker, or giving your time to someone in need. These moments don't make headlines, but they make hearts. And that is the true measure of a meaningful life. I've seen many successful people who are admired but empty inside, always chasing the next achievement, never feeling enough. But I've also seen simple people who live to help others. A teacher shaping young minds, a nurse caring for the sick, a volunteer feeding the poor, and their faces shine with peace. Why? Because contribution fills the void that competition never can. You may think your contribution doesn't matter, but even a single candle can light up a dark room. The little you do with love is far greater than the big you do with pride. Every act of kindness is a prayer. Every service done with sincerity is a seed planted in eternity. So ask yourself today, am I trying to be the best in the world or the best for the world? One brings applause, the other brings meaning. There's no real joy in winning alone. Life becomes beautiful when your success lifts others too. True greatness is not about how high you climb, but how many you help rise along the way. When you start living like that, peace replaces pressure, joy replaces jealousy, love replaces comparison. You begin to realize that success was never meant to make you superior. It was meant to make you useful, my dear friends. Contribution doesn't mean you give up ambition. It means you give it direction. Let your dreams not just serve your life, but serve the lives of others. That's when your journey becomes sacred. So slow down, look around. You are not behind. You are exactly where you're meant to be, growing at the pace your purpose allows. And when you feel tempted to compare, remember this timeless truth. The flower that blooms in its own season still beautifies the garden. Your time will come, your purpose will unfold. Just keep contributing, keep serving, keep loving, because one day, when all the races end, it won't matter who came first. What will matter is who made a difference. At the end of the day, my dear friends, life is not measured by how much we possess, but by how much we progress, not just in wealth or position, but in wisdom, gratitude, and love. One day, every title will fade, every trophy will gather dust, every achievement will be replaced by another. But what will never fade is the goodness you planted in someone's heart, the peace you carried in your soul, and the faith that held you through your storms. The real purpose of life is not to become important, but to become useful, not to shine above others, but to light the path for others. So live with gratitude, walk with peace, serve with love, and remember, the best way to make your life better is to make someone else's life brighter. When you do that, God smiles, because He never asked you to be perfect. He only asked you to be faithful. Don't just chase success, chase significance. Don't just seek comfort, seek character. Don't just exist, evolve. And every time you forget your worth, look upward and whisper, I may not have everything, but with you, Lord, I have enough. Because in the eyes of heaven, the greatest success is not what you achieve. It's how deeply you love, how humbly you serve, and how gracefully you live. There's a quiet magic that begins when your heart learns to say thank you, not just when life is good, but even when it isn't. Gratitude is not about having more, it's about seeing more. It's the art of noticing the beauty that has always been there. The world tells us happiness comes when we gain something new, but true happiness doesn't come from what's added to our lives, it comes from finally awakening to what's already there. Most of us spend our lives waiting for the promotion, the perfect relationship, the dream house, or the next milestone that will finally make us feel complete. And yet, the irony is, the more we wait, the more life slips quietly by. We think we're waiting for happiness to arrive, but happiness has been waiting for us to notice it. I once met a man in Mumbai who taught me more about gratitude than any book ever could. He was sitting on the street selling flowers near a temple. Both his legs were gone, lost in an accident years before, but his smile was radiant, full of life. Every person who passed by, he greeted with a namaste and a blessing. I couldn't help but ask him, "How can you smile like this when life has been so hard to you?" He looked at me, eyes shining, and said, "Sir, I lost my legs, but not my life. Every morning I wake up, I thank God that I can still see the sun, I can still smell the flowers, and I can still love the people who come here. Shouldn't that be enough?" That man sitting on the dusty road had something that so many wealthy people don't, a grateful heart. His joy wasn't born from luxury, it was born from perspective. Gratitude doesn't come from the head, it comes from the heart. It's not a reaction to what we receive, it's a decision to see the blessing in what we already have. We live in a world that constantly shows us what's missing. Every advertisement, every scroll through social media, every comparison whispers, "You don't have enough, you're not there yet, you need more." But gratitude interrupts that voice. It says, "Stop, look again, because no matter how ordinary your day may seem, it's filled with silent miracles. Your breath, your heartbeat, the people who care about you, the food on your table, the sky above your head." When was the last time you truly appreciated the sunrise? Not as something routine, but as something sacred. The sun doesn't need your attention to rise, but your soul needs that awareness to rise above restlessness. When was the last time you thanked your parents for their sacrifices, or your friend for simply listening without judgment? Gratitude turns these invisible blessings into visible joy. There's an old story of a man who complained endlessly about his small house. One day, a wise teacher told him to bring all his goats inside. After a week of chaos, the man was miserable. Then the teacher said, "Now take the goats out." The moment he did, the man burst out laughing and said, "My house feels so peaceful and big now." The house hadn't changed, he had. That's what gratitude does. It doesn't change your circumstances. It changes your eyes. When you learn to see what remains instead of what's missing, you begin to feel rich, even when you don't have much. The most beautiful thing about gratitude is that it multiplies what you appreciate. The more you notice blessings, the more blessings seem to appear. Because the mind is like a lens. It focuses on what you feed it. If you feed it complaint, you'll see problems. If you feed it gratitude, you'll see grace. I often tell people, don't wait to be happy to be grateful. Be grateful and happiness will follow. Gratitude shifts your energy. It silences comparison. It frees you from envy. You start realizing that everyone's journey is unique and that your portion, however imperfect, is perfect for your growth. You stop measuring your life by what you lack and start cherishing what you have. But sometimes gratitude feels difficult when you lose something, when life hurts, when dreams collapse. It's easy to be thankful when things are smooth, but the real power of gratitude shines in the storm. It's in saying, "I may not understand why this is happening, but I trust there is a purpose." Gratitude in pain doesn't mean pretending everything's okay. It means believing that God's plan is still good, even when it's hard to see. Once I visited a hospital where a young boy was being treated for a serious illness. He was frail but cheerful, coloring on a piece of paper. When I sat beside him, I asked what he was drawing. He smiled and said, "A rainbow." I asked, "Why a rainbow?" He said, "Because rainbows come after the rain, and I know my rain will stop soon." That little boy was teaching gratitude at a level most adults never reach. He wasn't denying the rain, he was waiting for the rainbow. That's gratitude. It's faith disguised as joy. It's not ignoring your pain, it's choosing hope inside it. It's thanking God not just for what He's done, but for what He's doing, even when you can't see it yet. So tonight, before you sleep, take a moment. Don't think about what's missing. Think about what remains. Whisper 3 thank yous. One for something you have, one for something you learned, and one for someone you love. That simple practice can change the way you wake up tomorrow. Because the more you thank life, the more life gives you to thank for. Gratitude is not about wealth, it's about awareness. It's realizing that even a simple meal tastes divine when shared with love. That even a small home feels grand when filled with laughter. That even an ordinary day becomes extraordinary when lived with appreciation. The truth is, life will never be perfect. But gratitude makes it beautiful. It's the bridge between what you have and what you want, between what hurts and what heals. And the most beautiful thing, gratitude draws you closer to God. Because every thank you is a small act of worship. It's your heart saying, I see your hand, Lord, even in the little things. So today, choose to see more, choose to notice more, choose to thank more. Because the one who sees blessings in everything will live a life of miracles. Not because they have more, but because they see more. Gratitude doesn't just change your mood, it transforms your spirit. And when you live with a grateful heart, even the simplest moments become sacred.